Hello everyone, my name is Nikita and I am from the Bodhi Academy. Today we are going to start with a new chapter from 10th Standard Science textbook, that is chapter number 7, Control and Coordination. Okay, so we know that there are different organisms living on earth, like microorganisms, then living organisms, okay, non-living organisms. And the major point which classifies the living from the non-living is the consciousness. Okay, living organisms have consciousness, they have the ability to think. Okay, and the thinking part, okay, thinking part and all the actions which we do on thinking comes under this sector, control and coordination. When we talk about this sector, the control and coordination occurs in two stages. Okay, control and coordination occurs in two types of organisms, that is control and coordination occurring in the animals and in the plants. Okay, so in this chapter we will be first studying how control and coordination occurs in the animals, followed by in the plants. Okay, so when we talk about animals require control and coordination for thinking and for their different actions. So do you all know which part of the body is involved in control and coordination? We can see a picture over here, that is the brain. Okay, so is it only the brain which is involved for coordination? Okay, there is a specialized tissue and a system, like how we, for digestion we have digestive system, for reproduction we have reproductive system. Same way, for the thinking part, for control and coordination, we have something called as the nervous system. Okay, now the nervous system, it is made up of the nervous tissue. Now which type of cells make up this tissue? Those are the nerve cells. Okay, so nerve cells make up the nervous tissue and the nervous tissue combines together to form the nervous system. Okay, so now for studying this we need to take an example. If you touch a hot object, okay, if you unknowingly, okay, or by mistake, if you touch a hot object, what is our instant reaction? Okay, our instant reaction is that we just move our hand away. Okay, so why do we move our hand away? Because we are detecting that we are sensing the stimuli. Okay, so everything which occurring in the environment which makes us to react to it is called as the stimuli. Any dangerous situation or any situation which affects us, it is called as the stimuli, and we respond to it. That is our response to the stimuli. Now how do we respond to it? What we have which makes us respond to it? First of all, we have to sense the stimuli, and to sense the stimuli we need something called as the receptors. Okay, and the receptors are present in the sense organs. We already have started in the previous classes. The sense organs are for sensing smell, okay, then hearing, then uh, feeling, okay, then tasting. So all the sense organs, in them they have something called as the receptors. So very important are the receptors. They are the receptors which are located inside the sense organs. Okay, and these receptors will detect the stimuli. Okay, now among the receptors there are two types. One is the gustatory receptors. These are the ones which detect the taste, and the olfactory receptors, these are the one which detect the smell. Okay, so these receptors are present inside the sense organs. Now the receptors have this nerve cells. Okay, so whatever information it receives, it is through this nerve cell. It receives from the stimulus in the environment. The information is acquired at the dendritic tip of the nerve cell. Okay, so this is a nerve cell. The different parts of the nerve cells are this. The branches are called as the dendrite. Okay, these branches are called as the dendrite. This orange color part, it is the cell body. Okay, the in the middle is the nucleus. Every cell has the nucleus, right? So this is the nucleus. Following, there is a long, okay, it is a long rod like structure, it is the axon. And finally we have the nerve endings. Okay, so now how the information from the stimulus travels through it and how it is passed, this is the main question. So first of all, the information is detected, it received by the dendritic tips. Okay, after it receives, it sets off a chemical reaction. Okay, so once it is received, it sets off a chemical reaction and creates an electrical impulse. Information is detected by the dendritic tip, which sets off a chemical reaction and it creates an electrical impulse. Okay, so now we are at this part wherein it is creating an electrical impulse. Now the electrical impulse will travel along the cell body to the axon and at the end. Okay, from the cell body to the axon and at the end in the nerve endings. So once it has reached the nerve endings, it releases chemicals. Okay, there is release of some chemicals and these chemicals now should go to the next nerve cell. Okay, before going to the next nerve cell, the chemicals will travel with a through a gap, okay, between the two nerve cell, between the nerve ending of the first nerve cell and the dendrite of the second nerve cell, there is a gap called as the synapse. That gap is called as the synapse. So at the synapse, the electrical impulse releases some chemical reaction, some chemicals which will be entering the next, after going to synapse it will be entering the next nerve cell. Okay, so after electrical impulse it goes to the cell body followed by the axon and to the nerve ending. Okay, so at the nerve ending there is release of chemicals which has to cross the gap which is called as the synapse, and later it will go to the next nerve cell, dendrite of the next nerve cell. Okay, so this is the pathway through which an electrical impulse from one nerve cell to the other in the nervous system. So this is how the information travels through an electrical impulse in the form of electrical impulse. So in what way the information travels inside a nerve cell? It is in the form of electrical impulse and it goes from one nerve cell to the other. Okay, so this is the way the electrical impulse travels. Now, next we need to know about is reflex action. Now, what is this word reflex means? The reflex is a word which we commonly use when we talk about something sudden, okay, some sudden action in response to something in the environment. Okay, so which happens reflexly or suddenly. Again, the same example I would like to take. When we touch a flame or a hot object, we just try we just pull our hand out. Okay, and that is a reflex action. We pull our hand out reflexly. Whenever a dangerous situation is occurring, we pull our hand out reflexly. So who controls this reflex action? Okay, so reflex action is controlled by something called as the reflex arc. So reflex actions is controlled by the reflex. Now, what is this reflex arc and where it is formed? So, a reflex arc is the combination, it is the bunch of all the nerve cells. Okay, it is the bunch of all the nerve cells which is formed in the spinal cord. Okay, so for example, now this is the motor neuron and this is the sensory neuron. Okay, this is the motor neuron and this is the sensory neuron. So sensory neuron is the one which senses the information, which senses the hot feeling. Okay, and it has to now send the signal directly to the motor neuron so that the person is able to move the hand out. Motor neuron is the one which controls the muscle movement. Okay, so when the sensory neuron will detect the hot feeling, okay, it will detect a dangerous situation, it will directly signal the motor neuron to act in a way that the effector muscle in the arm, it is helping the person to pull his hand away from the flame. Okay, so this is the combination of the nerve cells. Okay, so nerve cells meet in a bundle where they form the reflex arc in the spinal cord. Okay, so reflex arc, for example, motor neuron plus sensory neuron, it is formed in the spinal cord. Okay, so this is very important. If this was not there, then if all the nerve cells, important nerve cells, were not placed together, then it would have given it would have taken a long time for the signal to travel to wherever the nerve cell of the motor neuron is, okay, of the muscle cell is. That would take a long time and that would not be appropriate. Okay, so reflex arc is important. Now the next thing which we need to see is the human brain. The very important part of the thinking and coordination is the human brain. Okay, so when we talk about human brain, we need to know about two types of actions. Okay, in our body, okay, in a human body, there are two types of actions which we do. Some are voluntary actions and some are involuntary actions. Voluntary actions are the ones which we do by thinking, okay, which we do voluntarily, which we do because we want to do. Okay, so there are two types of actions. Voluntary is we do by thinking and we do it willingly as and when we want to do. Okay, and involuntary actions are the ones which do not require thinking, not require human thinking or organisms thinking, and this is not under our control. Okay, these actions are not under our control. Now both these actions, now examples of voluntary actions are common actions which we do by thinking, that is walking, talking. Okay, and involuntary actions are the ones which are happening in our heart, in our body, that is beating of the heart. Okay, then salivation. All these are involuntary actions. Now both these actions are controlled by the parts of the brain. Okay, so the human brain is divided into three parts: the forebrain, okay, the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. Okay, the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. Now in the forebrain there is the cerebrum, okay, and in the hindbrain there is the cerebellum, pons, and medulla, okay. This midbrain, the forebrain, okay, the forebrain is called as the thinking part of the brain. So which actions will this forebrain control? The thinking actions, that is the voluntary actions. Voluntary actions. Now next is the midbrain and the hindbrain. The midbrain and the hindbrain, both this control the involuntary actions. Okay, involuntary actions are controlled by the midbrain and the hindbrain. Now, okay, so the brain is divided into forebrain, this controls the, now in the forebrain there is the cerebrum which controls the voluntary actions. Okay, and both this control the involuntary actions. Now in the hindbrain there is a part which is called as the cerebellum. We can see this, the cerebellum. This cerebellum is mainly responsible for precision of voluntary actions. Okay, precision of voluntary actions means we know that it is important when we walk. Okay, it is, walking is a voluntary action, but how we walk, okay, as normal people we will always, if someone instructs us to walk in a straight line, then we will usually follow the instructions and walk in a straight line. Okay, and then we will always do our work precisely. So this precision of the voluntary actions is controlled by the cerebellum. Okay, cerebellum will control the precision of voluntary actions, and it is responsible for maintaining the posture and balance of the body. Okay, so now the brain and the spinal cord. The brain and the spinal cord together forms the central nervous system. There are two types of systems. The central nervous system, okay, it controls, it has the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, the CNS. The second one is the PNS, the peripheral nervous systems, which controls the central nervous system. Okay, it controls the central nervous system. So these are the parts of the human brain: the cerebrum, the midbrain, the pons, medulla, and cerebellum of the hindbrain, and then it is connected to the spinal cord. Now we have already studied in our previous classes that the brain is protected. Okay, it is just not there. Okay, it is a very sensitive tissue and it has to be protected. So brain is protected with the help of a bony box. This bony box is called as the skull. Okay, and inside the skull the brain is contained in a fluid filled balloon which provides shock absorption. So brain, for protection, it is present inside the skull plus the fluid filled balloon. And secondly, the spinal cord. Okay, how is the spinal cord protected? The spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column. Okay, so this is the protection provided to the brain and the spinal cord, and the parts of the system are central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. We have done the parts of the brain, human brain, forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain, which together controls the voluntary and involuntary actions together. Okay, and we studied about the reflex action controlled by the reflex arc, which is formed in the spinal cord. Now also we studied how the electrical impulse, the information travels in the form of electrical impulse in the nerve cell and followed by the nervous tissue and the nervous system. Okay, this is how control and coordination happens in animals. Okay, so today we saw about the animals. In the next video we will be discussing how control and coordination happens in the plants. Okay, so this much for this video. Thank you for watching my video. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel.